Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the CAV Sports Podcast. It's your host with the most, Chris. I hope everyone's having a fantastic day. I hope everyone had a great 4th of July. As of this recording, it is being recorded on July 5th, so the day after the 4th of July. So whenever this does get uploaded, just know this was recorded on July 5th. So this is 24 hours after July 4th. But I hope everyone had a great 4th of July, pop fireworks, eat some barbecue, hot dogs, hamburgers, whatever you guys make for the 4th of July. I know I had a great 4th of July. I got to hang out with some friends of mine and, got to hang out with a bunch of people. It was a lot of fun. We did a lot of different things. Like we popped some fireworks, obviously ate some, some hot dogs and some burgers, hung out with some friends and, just had a relaxed 4th of July. Nothing really crazy happening. I don't really go to a lake or anything like that, just because I feel like a lot of people go to lakes. It's just very crowded. So I personally didn't go to a lake or anything like that for the 4th of July, but I hope you guys had a great one and a safe one. I know 4th of July can be a little chaotic if you're not careful, so I hope everyone had a safe 4th of July. I know what else I did was I watched some baseball games. Since America's pastime, why would you not want to watch the MLB going on? Have my Red Sox playing. They lost, sadly, but it's okay. It's okay. It's only one game, but they did lose it. But we're gonna be all right. I really hope. But another great event that happened yesterday on the 4th of July was the Nathan's Hot Dog Eating Contest, where the greatest of all time, Joey Chestnut, would win his 16th mustard belt. That is insane. He Ric Flaired basically the hot dog competition. And what I found interesting about, first of all, I think that whole competition's crazy just because you're seeing a bunch of adults, eat a lot of hot dogs in 10 minutes, and trying to get through a couple for me personally is already a tough task as it is. But imagine just sitting there in 10 minutes, you got to go through as many as you can. And him going through 60 plus is just an incredible feat. But not only just that, but the fact that the event was essentially canceled. It was canceled because there was rain, and they had to just completely stop the event because, who wants to, eat food in the rain? Even though, in my opinion, I don't know why. I feel like that, kind of evens the playing field, unless there's lightning. If there was lightning, then that's something different. But if it was just rain, the competitors dump the food in water or lemonade or whatever they have on stand, and they dunk it in there to be able to eat it and get it kind of through, and so they can get as many as they can. So I already see them doing that. So that's why I didn't understand why rain was such a big deal when you see them stuff hot dogs or whatever inside of fountain drinks or something. So I was I don't really see what the difference was in that. If anything, that kind of gives everyone an equal playing field. But Joey Chestnut, he comes out and he's like, no, we're going to get the show on the road. We're going to do this competition, rain or sunshine, we're going to do it. And they did it. They said the competition was back on, and he went out there and won another title. So congratulations to Joey Chestnut, the greatest of all time to ever do it. Like I said, I'm more surprised that they actually got the green light to actually get the event going, because it was I think they shut it down, ESPN, they were on, they did Sports Center because the event got canceled, and then all of a sudden, I think right after Sports Center, they went right back to it, and they said, all right, well, I guess we're doing the competition today. So, but, shout out to Joey Chestnut for actually getting them to keep going with the event, just because, like I said, with rain, not a lot of people want to be out there and watch people eat food in the rain. But that's called dedication to the sport. You cannot say Joey Chestnut is not dedicated to his sport, because wow, he went out there and was able to pull off this feat of getting people to come in and still do this competition. And not only do they, I believe, the hot dog eating contest, but they also do gallons of lemonade. I forgot who the man was that won it last year, but he was there again this year. And I'm just wow, I can never do that. That is very, very hard to do. But they were able to get it going. I was very happy because I know I was trying to watch it, but that's when I heard it was rained out, so they weren't sure if they're going to do the event because I could never get it to turn on. So I think 12:30 ended up rolling around, so I started watching the Red Sox and the Rangers game. So I thought okay, I guess it's over, but then I get a notification in the middle of me eating of, hey, they're doing the hot dog eating competition. They end up coming back out and doing it. So, but shout out to Joey Chestnut for getting that whole competition still going through rain or sunshine. You guys know that Joey Chestnut will not fear a challenge. So, my hat's off to him because that was incredible. He was able to pull that off. So congratulations again to Mr. Joey Chestnut, one of the greatest of all time to ever do it. And he's going down as probably one of the most impactful people in his sport. All right, so moving on to the NBA, a lot of stuff has been happening in free agent, or not really free agency, but this offseason for the NBA. But we're going to stick with the Dallas Mavericks real quick because today some crazy news happened on top of other stuff. But earlier today, it was reported that Grant Williams has been traded from the Celtics to the Mavericks. I'm excited. I'm really excited because last year, aside of us having, Luka and Kyrie, we went downhill really quickly whenever he arrived because I felt that we got rid of a lot of key players that were more important than we thought. Because even though, yes, the superstars are important, like Luka and Kyrie, working together. I get all that, but we also need like those role players or people on the bench to come up and step up when one of them is either out, with injury, or they're not playing that night, or they're having an off night. You have those players ready to go, just like the Nuggets did. The Nuggets still had a lot of good players aside of Jokic and Jamal Murray. They still had, KCP, Aaron Gordon, you guys name it. We saw the championship run that they had, and they blew out the West. So now the Mavericks, I believe, are taking a page out of the Nuggets playbook because now they're just going to get players left and right. Today it was Grant Williams. I believe they were in a 3-team trade with the Spurs. So Reggie Bullock got traded to go to the Spurs, and I believe the Celtics received a second-round pick, and I believe the Mavericks received a second-round pick for Reggie Bullock, which is fine with me because I thought we were going to have to give up like Tim Hardaway or something, and that was like a little more of my concern because I didn't want to lose Timmy because I feel like he's a pretty good asset to the team, but we didn't get rid of him, and we only got rid of second-round picks for Grant Williams. I think that's a win. That's kind of highway robbery in my opinion, just because, like I said, I'd rather have Timmy than Reggie, but Grant Williams coming in, I think he did a great job for the Celtics, stepping up when he needed to, whenever Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown were not, they weren't hot or they weren't doing well. He stepped up and did it well. I know he's a pretty decent defender, so that's going to come in handy, going into the Mavericks season, because that was one of my biggest things with the Mavericks was that we could not defend. It was cool that we can score 130, but when the opposing team can score 135, that means our defense is wrong. That means we got to fix something. So I'm glad that Mark Cuban and Jason Kidd are winning this offseason saying we got to get extra players because we can't always rely on Luka Doncic or Kyrie Irving, since now he's coming back, which I'll talk about that in a second. With them coming back, we can't just rely on both of them to score the majority of the points and the rest of the team not to do anything. We got to get some people to help them out, especially now since they're probably going to revolve the team around Luka and Kyrie, since they got Kyrie for 3 years. This is a good time to at least get a team, kind of forming around them, especially since they were pretty good prior to Kyrie coming. And then the year, this past year they were, I believe, top 5 in the West before Kyrie came. And then the year prior, we were able to make it all the way to the Western Conference Finals against Golden State. So that is at least a good sign. And now that, we're kind of more serious on getting players to help out Luka and Kyrie, this is going to be a big win for the Mavericks. But speaking of wins for the Dallas Mavericks, earlier this week, Kyrie Irving re-signed again with the Mavericks on a 3-year deal. I'm very excited. I did want Kyrie back because it does help with the scoring situation. I know my problem with Kyrie is just the off the court stuff, his anti-Semitic comments, the world being flat. I mean, we all know the controversies around Kyrie Irving of what happens off the court, but what he can do on the court, it's two different comparisons here because he is phenomenal on the court. Definitely a top point guard in the league, and he can make it work. He can make it work with Luka. What I believe what happened was when he got brought in, we did not have enough time to work with him and Luka. We kind of just got him in the next trade because they just wanted to blow it up and get rid of Kyrie, KD, and Harden just to kind of get everyone off their payroll. And then we had to bring in Kyrie halfway through the season, and that's not enough time to get two stars to work together, especially since they're both very ball dominant players. Luka likes to have the ball because he's going to be the future of the Dallas Mavericks organization. He's most likely going to be the future of the NBA. And then Kyrie, who likes to have the ball too because he loves to he loves his handles. He's a great shot creator. He can drive it to the lane. He can shoot the three. He can do it all as a point guard. So having two ball dominant players on the same team without any chemistry is not going to work a lot of the time. So now that Kyrie's coming back to Dallas, and now we're going to see what it looks like when they get a full offseason to work with each other, kind of get that ball rolling a little bit, and being able to possibly be successful, coming up in the season and not flame out towards the end of the season. So that's going to be my biggest thing with them, is that now they're going to be able to work together and be able to get over the hump that they were at this last season, because that was the problem. And now that we're bringing in Grant Williams and some other players, it's going to help out on defense, because that was my biggest thing when we were going into the offseason was we have offense. We have no problem scoring, because Luka can get points, Kyrie can get points, Tim Hardaway can get points. Like, we have people that can score, but we don't have any defenders, and that's the biggest problem, is we don't have someone to stop the opposing team from scoring 31 when we score 30. Or something like that. Or if we're in a close fight, we need a closeout, we have a player. We don't have to rely on just, hopefully Luka or Kyrie, outscores the rest of the other team. We don't have to rely on that anymore now that we're getting in more players. Another player that that is actually coming back to the Mavericks is Stephen Curry's little brother. He is coming back to the Mavericks, and I think he's going to be a great addition because he is a pretty good shooter, which I think is going to help on the bench for the Dallas Mavericks. So he's going to be a great bench scorer because he's not going to start over Kyrie. But if Kyrie doesn't play, Seth Curry has experience. He's a veteran point guard, and he can facilitate the offense. He was already there. Like I said, he was there about a few years ago. He was there with the Mavericks. So he can familiarize himself pretty quickly. He can run an offense. He's done it before, so he has some experience in this situation, and he's had success. So I'm very happy we picked him up, because he's going to help in the long run. I think he will. He will come in off the bench, get some points. He's a pretty good three-point shooter, so that's definitely going to help when we need the bench to start scoring, so we don't have to rely, like I said, on Kyrie and Luka just scoring all the time. We have someone else that can help facilitate the offense when they're off the court, and then Grant Williams is coming in, to help out on defense, and Seth Curry can defend too. He's a pretty decent defender on the wing, so he can help out with that one on the bench, or if Kyrie's still tired, he can come in and guard. He can guard, top point guards if he absolutely necessary. And he already has a good connection with Kyrie since they were both at Duke when Kyrie Irving was there. That one and done year he had, they were both there and they were teammates. So they can probably rekindle that connection, and it's going to help out a lot with the Mavericks. And then now Grant Williams is coming in. And then on top of that, our 2 draft picks with Derek Lively III and Oliver Maxine Prosper. So we got something going here in Dallas for the Dallas Mavericks, and I'm very excited because I was super scared that we weren't going to do anything this past offseason, because I was really nervous, because I was like, oh, are we going to do something, or are we going to have to wait possibly another couple years before, we figure something out, or we have to get rid of Kyrie? Who knows? But now I think I'm excited for this team. I believe Luka's going to be pretty excited, especially since Kyrie's coming back. And I think it should be great for Kyrie, because he got a pretty good deal of money for a 3-year contract, because that was my thing with Kyrie when people were trying to see where he was going to go, is that he was going to ask for a lot of money. Now, will a team give him that kind of money? Was probably going to be a no, because he's kind of more, you can argue he's a little bit more trouble, he's a little more trouble than he is kind of worth it, because, we saw what happened in Brooklyn, the Celtics, whatever. We've seen what happened. But now that he's coming in, he's not going to be by himself. He has Luka, who's younger. He doesn't have to work with him like what happened with KD, who's injured a lot because he's a little older. He has someone that's young. He's a little fresher. He's the future of the NBA, and the Dallas Mavericks organization. So he doesn't have to worry about that as much. He can work with a young guy like Luka and get it, kind of bring him up to his level. And I think he will elevate his game, since Kyrie is going to be the point. Majority of the time, Luka does not have to play point guard. He can play small forward if he has to, or if he has to play point guard, Kyrie can always move the shooting guard, and they have that great combination of that, and Kyrie can still make shots whenever he needs to, and he can get Luka Doncic open. And like I said, along with Grant Williams and Seth Curry, the Mavericks are looking scary. I'm very excited for the Mavs, and I'm very excited for the season. Mark Cuban, Mr. Shark Tank himself, he's putting in some investments. He's really trying to make sure that the Mavericks don't have a bad season like they did this past year. And especially, like I said, they're probably taking notes from the Nuggets, getting depth on the team over, loading up on superstars, because that's becoming my thing with all this going on, with the Nuggets winning the they were able to win the finals is that they didn't win it with just nothing but superstars. They won it with depth. And I believe that's what the Mavericks are going to try to do this year, is that they're going to try to get depth instead of just relying on starters that have to play 38 minutes, 40 minutes a game, possibly risking injury or fatigue or something even worse happening. You never know. But, having depth and having those players that can step up when your starters are down, or when they can step up when someone's having an off game, is going to be very helpful going into the season and going into these 82 games and possibly into the playoffs. So I'm happy for the Dallas Mavericks. I'm very excited for the season to start. Later on in the year, I'm very excited to see how the team is going to work out. So hats off to you, Mark Cuban, having a good off season. All right, sticking with the NBA though. This was another shocker in the NBA world that happened earlier this week. This is my reaction to it. Damian Lillard has requested a trade from the Portland Trail Blazers. Did I call it or what? Because last episode I said that he should request a trade because I think he should get out of there because they don't really have nothing to offer him. On top of that, he hasn't won anything. Now he requested a trade. He wants to leave. So I'm guessing he heard everybody saying, he heard what possibly heard what I said, I don't know. But he has requested a trade from the Portland Trail Blazers. Now, will they trade him is probably going to be something else because who wants to give up, who's going to give up the most, I think is what Portland's position is in. Because they're not in a position where, who's going to want Damian Lillard? I can name a bunch of teams that want Damian Lillard. Like half of the NBA wants Damian Lillard. The Spurs are a team. Miami Heat is already shipping off players to make room for Damian Lillard. The Pacers, you name it. There's a lot of teams that are very interested in Damian Lillard because of his great shooting ability. He's a great point guard. He can facilitate an offense. You name it, he can do it. But now that he actually requested one, because everyone wasn't sure because of all the comments about loyalty and he wants to be a Blazer for life, all that talk, and now he wants a trade. And I think he's coming to that realization that he's getting older. He kind of wants a ring. He wants to, submit his legacy with within the NBA, and he wants to get a ring. So leaving Portland is probably going to be the way to do it because he has to. He just has to because there's no way he's going to win one with Portland. I'm sorry. I don't think he will because they don't even attract free agents on their own. It would be different if he always had a great team, every year and they're this close. They're inches away from reaching a finals. But that's not true. CJ McCollum, who was their other great player, is in New Orleans now. It's just been the Dame show. They're trying to draft young players that could help them for the future, but it's not helping them today. So now Damian Lillard is probably thinking, I just want to get a ring now. Maybe he'll reunite with the Blazers, maybe retire as a Blazer. Who knows? But he now wants to be traded. So now let's look at some teams. I know the biggest one is that he said he wants to play with the Miami Heat. Now, do I think that he should? Yeah, because they've been the closest. In the past couple of years, they've made the finals. They made it in the bubble when no one thought that they would. And then this past year, when they were the A seed, lost one playing game, no one thought they were going to make it all the way to the finals, and they end up making it all the way to the finals on just Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo and the will to win. And they got to the finals. They were maybe one or two players short. Tyler Hero was definitely, him being injured, he was a former Sixth Man of the Year. Big fan of his, by the way. Him being gone and taking away his shooting abilities definitely hurt the Miami Heat. I think if he wasn't injured and he would have played, would have been a different series. Not really a different series, but they definitely would have won one more game. And they would have been a little bit closer to beating the Nuggets than they were this past year. But now if they add Damian Lillard, the sky's the limit because they're going to be a top team in the East. They are going to be scary with him, Butler, and if Bam doesn't get traded away for it. And, those top three, it's going to be monstrous in South Beach. However, though, my biggest concern is the question I said earlier, is who is going to give up the most for Dame time? That's going to be the biggest question of them all, is who's going to give up the most, because I'm not sure who has enough to give. I know that the Spurs are picked to be the wild card of it, but I don't know who would they really give up to get Damian Lillard. I can see maybe the person that would probably be worth it, maybe it's Kelton Johnson, the colored hair player, but I don't think they're going to give him up. There's no way with him and Wemby coming in, no way they give him up. Like, there's not going to be any way. And I don't know if they really have enough to get Damian Lillard, to bring him into the Spurs. Miami, I know a couple of mock trades that I've seen is like a couple first, both Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson. However, I don't think that they should trade like both of them. It's got to be one or the other, either Tyler or Duncan. Just because Duncan is a really good three-point shooter. I believe he's like the best three-point shooter on the Miami Heat. Tyler Hero, 6th man of the year. You don't really want to give that up either because he's great coming off the bench. He can help scoring when Jimmy Butler is dead and tired like he was in the finals when he wasn't having good games. He was able to come in and help out. Gabe Vincent is now gone. I believe he's with the Lakers now. So he's not there to help. So, Miami trying to make little shuffles. But in reality, it's going to be what are they really, truly going to give up for Damian Lillard. Now, I did see another one where they maybe send Bam. Like Bam and maybe Duncan or Tyler Hero. But I don't think you should really give away Bam because Bam had probably the best final series out of that whole team. He was probably the best out of everybody because he was just dominant in the finals against the Nuggets. He was really the only one doing damage against the Nuggets because Jimmy Butler was very inconsistent. But they're not going to give up Jimmy Butler because he's a star. There ain't no way they're going to trade him for Damian Lillard unless Miami does. It is a possibility. Like, we can't really count that out, but I don't realistically see Miami trading away Jimmy Butler, who they already put a lot of money and time and effort into, and he's helped them so much. Like I said, in the bubble when they went to the finals in this past year, they made it all the way to the finals. I believe they were like the top team in the East when the season began, a little bit towards the middle, closer to the All-Star break. After the All-Star break, Miami started slowly going down. But in the first probably quarter to half of the season, they were actually like the number one team in the East who was just dominating. So I don't really see them trading away Jimmy Butler, who is a big part of their offense and a big part of the team morale. Everybody loves Jimmy. He ain't going nowhere anytime soon. So it's gonna be either Tyler, Duncan, or Bam. They're probably gonna be one of those traded. Or they try to get a 3-team trade, but it's going to be really tough. I think I saw one. It was kind of weird. It was like with Toronto. They can maybe try to find some way with Toronto, but I don't think Toronto's going to try it. So it's going to come to that lingering question. Who is going to give up the most for Damian Lillard? And we'll just have to see what ends up happening. Like I said, they're not going to... The Portland Trailblazers are not going to walk away with just a couple of draft picks and say, all right, cool, Dame, you're out of here. They're not. They invested, I guess they did with Miami with Butler. They invested a lot of time, and they have a superstar, a top 100, top 75 NBA player of all time on their team. They're going to want something back. Like, they're going to probably want a lot back and a pretty penny. So that's what's going to be the lingering question throughout the offseason is who is going to pay up for Jimmy Butler. Alrighty, moving on. Speaking of the Lakers, I think they made one of the smartest moves in the offseason for them is that they re-signed Austin Reeves. I'm happy that they re-signed Austin Reeves. I think he's a rising star. Like, hands down, he's a rising star. I don't think anybody could disagree with me on that. He plays phenomenally. Even if he doesn't put up points on the board, this season he averaged 13 points. He's tough on defense. He hustles to the ball. There is no other thing you can really ask from him. Scoring, assists, rebounds, hustling on defense, getting steals. I've seen him take charges. I really don't see the NBA players take charges as much, but I've seen him take so many charges in the NBA, which I'm very happy about. I'm like, good for him, because that's a free turnover. And now we're seeing a little bit of a trend of NBA players starting to take charges more often to stop, players like John Morant or LeBron or anybody like that from driving to the lane and just, scoring all the time. It's a good way to stop them and gets them, to think twice about it. So Austin Reeves, I believe he's gonna be great. Like, hands down, he's gonna be great. Just obviously LeBron being there and kind of, the GM taking over, trying to see who he really wants to keep in LA. But I think that the Lakers re-signing Reeves is probably going to be like one of their best ideas that they're going to have this offseason. Because I know there was a lot of speculation about if they're going to go get Kyrie Irving, if maybe they're going to try to trade or sign him. Problem was that if they wanted Kyrie Irving, Austin Reeves is probably going to have to go. And I explained it whenever this first came up, is that Austin Reeves or Kyrie Irving, it's kind of like, are you going to pay a lot of money to Kyrie Irving to come on in and Hopefully he plays. Hopefully he doesn't have like an issue with somebody and then wants a trade, like what happened with the Nets and the Celtics and the Cavaliers, or put my money on my future with Austin Reeves, who's proving he can be great. He already has great morale with the team. LeBron loves him. Everybody loves him in LA. I would take Austin Reeves just because, like I said, he's younger. We don't know how much longer Kyrie Irving's going to play. Who knows if he's going to put himself in another scandal? And that's why for me, aside of being a Mavericks fan, I did want Kyrie Irving to come back just because I want another star on the team. But for LA, if they would have signed Kyrie Irving, they would have not been able to sign Austin Reeves. And I think the Lakers organization truly understood that because they needed to keep Austin Reeves because he's the future. Once LeBron is gone, if he decides to go play with Bronny whenever Bronny comes in next year, who's going to be the next one up? It's going to be Austin Reeves. And I think keeping him on, and he has great team morale, like I said. He hustles. He's proven his worth to the LA organization. He's going to be great once LeBron either retires or he goes plays with Bronny. Here are some of his stats for the past year. So, shooting-wise, he's a 52% shooter. From the three-point line, this is from this past season. This past season, he shot 39.8% from the three-point line. We can round it to 40. So, from the free throw line, he's an 86% free throw shooter, and he averaged 13 points a game. So, those are pretty good numbers for a year two player coming in on a Lakers team that tries to load up as much as they can. So, him coming in and showing dominance and saying that I want to be here, and he got paid, is just great because Austin Reeves fully deserves it just because he plays his heart out every game. Every game that I watch him play, he always gives it 110%. Even when some of the players won't, he still hustles. I believe there was some games where I saw they were getting absolutely blown out, but he would come in and try to get them back in the game. He fights for rebounds, he takes charges, he tries to get a steal, he tries to get points. But Austin Reeves just absolutely deserves, getting paid and being brought back to the Lakers organization so he can help out. Because I do believe he's going to be the future of the LA Lakers, and he's just going to be a future star, a future megastar in LA once LeBron leaves to either go play with Bronny or he retires, whatever he decides to do is going to be up to him. But I believe in Austin Reeves. I think he's going to be great. And, congratulations to you, Austin Reeves, for staying in LA. Don't have to worry about going anywhere else. Can't say the same thing about Jordan Poole. Alrighty, moving on to the NFL. This one's kind of a question that got brought up, I believe July 3rd. And it was, if I'm worried about the 49ers and, Brock Purdy, it was reported that he's ahead of schedule, but am I still worried for the 49ers? I'm going to say yes. Here's why I'm worried. They have talent. They have a really good team. Defense, probably one of the top defenses in the NFL. They have Fred Warner. They have all those guys on that defense. Nick Bosa. You name it, they have it. They have a great defense. And then offense, Debo, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, Christian McCaffrey. My biggest concern, though, is going to be the quarterback. What are they going to do about quarterback? Because they clearly want Brock Purdy to be the guy. But even though they're saying he's ahead of schedule, he has not practiced with anybody. He has not been on the field. We don't know if he's going to be the same person, throwing because of, to be able to throw. We don't know if his strength is still going to be there when he comes back or he has to probably limit himself a little bit. That's the whole reason why they brought in Sam Darnold is because they probably know they have no idea when he's coming back or if he's going to be the same, so they're bringing him in case he's not ready, and then they still have Trey Lance that they invested 3 draft picks in. So that's what I'm more worried about is who's going to play quarterback, because we saw it last season in the playoffs when Brock Purdy got hurt and then someone else got hurt. I forgot who the other guy was. So Christian McCaffrey had to be quarterback. And that's my biggest concern for the 49ers because each in the past couple years, previous years, they've had quarterbacks, but they keep getting hurt. Garoppolo, that's why they got Trey Lance, is because they knew Garoppolo can't stay healthy. So they brought in Trey Lance to, come on in and hopefully take his spot, prove himself, prove himself to be a gunslinger. Trey Lance is injury prone, so he's out. Now Brock Purdy had to come on in. He did really well this past season up until the playoffs where he got hurt. So they just don't have a quarterback that can stay consistently healthy. In the past few years, the 3 quarterbacks that they've ran have all gotten hurt at some point in time. Now they're hoping that Brock Purdy will come back, but like I said, he has not practiced at all. They have not given a full update, and we haven't seen what he looks like throwing the ball. So we're still not sure if he's going to be the same. It's kind of the same idea like with when you tear an ACL, is that when you tear an ACL, who knows how you're going to be, afterwards. Like, if you're going to be able to run, be explosive, be able to make those sharp turns, you name it. The ACL is what helps you with all that, and that tendon right there is what helps you with the speed, change of direction, being able to jump. We saw it with Odell Beckham. He was a, great wide receiver up until he started having knee problems, and then he tore his ACL. He started having, he kept getting injured. Wasn't the same player. And we've seen that time and time again with ACL injuries. Now, same thing if it's your elbow, but for quarterbacks, it's probably worse because you need your elbow, you need your arm to throw. Or it wasn't your elbow, it was his shoulder. Sorry about that. His shoulder is injured, and it was his throwing shoulder, which even makes it worse. And it wasn't like it was a dirty tackle. I think it was like a well-placed block. It's just that, it ended up hurting him a lot more. So when you look at that, and you see the track record of these other quarterbacks that they had, Jimmy Garoppolo, who's now with the Raiders, who knows if he's going to play because he's still not even suiting up either. And Trey Lance has been hurt all the time too. So they're bringing in Sam Darnold to hopefully help out. But that's my concern, is they keep shuffling through quarterbacks like it's like nothing, like it's a deck of cards. They keep shuffling in quarterbacks, and they don't have a franchise quarterback who can stay consistently healthy. They're hoping it's Brock Purdy, but we don't know what he's going to look like. Trey Lance is definitely not the answer because he keeps getting hurt. He's like another Garoppolo. He keeps getting hurt. Sam Darnold, we've seen what he can do, and at least out of all three of them, he's been the healthiest, ironically. So with him coming in, it may help, but it's not going to be Sam Darnold's team. And it probably won't be Trey Lance's team. They're trying to make it Brock Purdy's team. But that's the biggest question mark I have with the 49ers is what is he going to look like post shoulder injury, post injury? Is he still going to be the same quarterback? We don't know. Trey Lance, we are just counting the days until he gets hurt again, because he's been getting hurt a lot. He gets hurt really early in the season, and we're gonna wait and see what if Sam Darnold's gonna help or not. So that's my biggest worry for the 49ers is that they, not because they're lacking a talent, not because they're not a good team. They have a great offense, they have a great defense. They just don't have a quarterback that can stay healthy, and that's gonna be the biggest problem because we saw what happened when they went up against the Eagles in playoffs. Brock Purdy got hurt. They wouldn't stand a chance. Now, I give credit to their defense because even though they didn't have a quarterback, the defense was still able to compete as much as they can. Just obviously being on the field for so long, they're going to get tired at some point, and just not having an offense that just can't move the ball. When you have to put in Christian McCaffrey as your emergency quarterback, and even, now they even changed the rule in the NFL where they can activate a third quarterback on the bench in case that ever happens, because the 49ers ran out of QBs. They ran out of bodies to put against the Eagles. And now the NFL had to change a whole rule so now NFL teams can have three quarterbacks ready to go in case that scenario ever happens. They didn't know it may happen, but it happened. And it seems like it's going to be a consistent thing for the 49ers. Now, when will this catch up to them is a different question, because that's been my thing, is that they're running with injured quarterbacks. But how long can they keep that up before it comes back and bites them? Because they got Trey Lance off a trade. They traded away a bunch of picks to get Trey Lance. And then they picked Brock Purdy with the last pick in the draft, and then they just picked up Sam Darnold. They're just cycling through quarterbacks at this point, and it's just, to me, like, when is it gonna stop? And you're gonna say, you know what, we need to invest in a quarterback that's not gonna get hurt. Either halfway through the season or 2 games into the season or in playoffs. We got to find someone that's going to be consistent and that's going to be able to play. So that's what the 49ers need to do, and that's what I'm most fearful for them, is that at one point this is going to come back and bite them because they're going to run out of quarterbacks and they're not going to know what to do. They're going to have to trade away somebody to get another quarterback from another team, or do something, because if not, that's what's going to, that's what ultimately leads them from being that team that can possibly win the Super Bowl and get to the Super Bowl to not get into the Super Bowl, is because they, like I said, they have a great team. They've been able to make playoffs and get far, but they don't make it to the Super Bowl is because they don't have a quarterback that can stay healthy, and that's what's affecting them in the long run. So with that, hopefully the 49ers can get it figured out. Hopefully Brock Purdy comes back. Even if he's just like a little bit of like the same old Brock Purdy, they're going to be okay, but they got to find a way to protect those quarterbacks. Put bubble wrap on them. I don't know. Figure something out, but they got to protect those quarterbacks and make sure they don't get hurt, especially if they're going to be rolling with QBs that are just injury prone, and just going to hopefully something works out. Alrighty, so next up, we're going to move over to the Giants, and just my problem I've been having is I've been seeing a lot of people discuss, this whole thing with Daniel Jones, and Daniel Jones is a top quarterback. I've seen my comments about it too. I'm sorry, I just don't agree. Daniel Jones is not a top quarterback. He's not, because if we're going to base it off of this past season, that he had a great year, he had a pretty good year compared to the years prior. Because look what he did prior to last year. They weren't winning games. They weren't doing well. It wasn't like Daniel Jones was middle of the pack, trying to make it into the wild card. No, they weren't that good when Daniel Jones was there before Saquon arrived. And now he had a decent year. The new coach for the Giants coming in, I think it was more him and him trying to develop a little bit of a culture going on to be able to make, the Giants great. However, though, here's my problem, is that when here's my problem when you try to do that, not trying to build a culture, but when you're trying to make someone seem like they're this big of a quarterback when they're really not, you end up being disappointed in the end instead of just accepting reality here. So let me give you an example of this. So, like I said, prior to the season, he was not great. This season, everyone's saying he's like a top quarterback. He's like maybe top 20. I don't think so. Because then if he doesn't do well this past season, everyone's going to be shocked and flustered and confused about why he didn't do so well, or I thought he was supposed to be a great quarterback. He got a little bit of help. They drafted a wide receiver. Darren Waller is now a Giant. But here's my thing. Their biggest component of that offense that makes Daniel Jones great is Saquon Barkley, and he may not even play because he's holding out for a contract. Now, with the contract thing for Saquon, do I think he should get like a 5 or 6 year contract? No, because the NFL uses up running backs like that. They go through running backs fast. So maybe a 2-year contract, max 3, to just keep him around and, hopefully get the last ounce of football out of him. That would work. But he's not going to get a max contract, so I don't know what they're going to do. But either way, he's holding out, and we don't know how long this holdout's going to be, if it may go into the season, because he just wants to get paid, especially since he's been a big reason why they've been successful. And I completely agree. I think he is the reason why they're successful. Prior to Darren Waller arriving, who was the only name-worthy member of that whole New York Giants organization? It was Saquon Barkley. Who was the one generating revenue for jersey sales? Saquon Barkley out of that whole team. Compared to everyone else, Saquon Barkley. People wanted to go see Saquon Barkley run the ball. When he was injured, they missed him a lot. Look at these numbers here. So let's look at Daniel Jones with Saquon Barkley. With Saquon Barkley, he had a 91.4 PR. He passed for over 7,000 yards, and he had 44 touchdowns compared to 17 interceptions. Without Saquon Barkley, his PR went down to 84.1. He passed for 5,000 yards, 5,900, and he threw 35 touchdowns to 22 interceptions. So you can clearly see the drastic number change in, with Daniel Jones, having Saquon and not having Saquon, because Saquon being on the field opens up avenues, because who are you going to be more scared of, Daniel Jones or Saquon? I'd rather take out Saquon, because even last season, whenever I saw the Cowboys play the Giants, you took away Saquon Barkley, which we did, and a lot of teams, that was their main priority, is taking away Saquon Barkley. They were not moving the ball. They had a hard time. Every now and then they got lucky and got like a deep shot downfield, or they got a mid or a short. But Saquon Barkley takes over the game, and he's the difference maker on that team. Without him there, I realistically do not see Daniel Jones making that drastic jump forward that everyone thinks he's going to have, or they're going to have him be like this. They're thinking he's like this top quarterback that's going to be successful. No, I think that with Saquon there, he can be, because it opens up the offense, like I said. And the thing that made it different this year from the past years is that now they're using his legs. They're doing a little more, QB options, having quarterback goes so he can move, especially since he's apparently very fast and shifty. We've seen it happen. Now with without Saquon, what's he going to do? What is he realistically going to do? Because he can't run forever. They're going to cover Darren Waller because he's going to already be the main offensive person, the guard, outside of Saquon. So what is he honestly going to do? And that's going to be my thing with him without playing with Saquon, especially since he has to go up against pretty good defenses like the Cowboys have, and I guess we can throw in the Eagles if you really want to. The Eagles and whoever else they got to play that season, they can't just rely on hopefully Daniel Jones, because when they did that, they weren't that great. Let's be real. They were not great when it was just Daniel Jones. When Saquon came in, it definitely made a difference for the Giants in that team. So this whole debate about, well, Daniel Jones is a great quarterback, or he's ranked pretty high, or why don't they, in the NFC, how is he not a top 5 quarterback in the NFC? Because he's not. You take away Saquon, he's clearly the numbers show he does not produce that well. Like I said, every now and then he has an explosive play, which I give him. He's talented, he has speed, he can throw the ball a little bit, but without Saquon, it's just very difficult for him, and that's what I've seen in the past few years with Daniel Jones since he's been in the NFL. But then when Saquon came in, his life was changed. His life was a lot better with Saquon than it is without it. So the Giants need to re-sign Saquon, find some sort of deal. Like I said, maybe a 2-3 year maximum. Don't give him a 5-year deal and hope he's going to last 5 years, because I really doubt he will, especially how much he's being used in that offense. Don't give him that much. Don't give him that long term of a deal, but give him about a 2-3, maybe max 3 year deal, minimum a year, or if he wants to play under the franchise tag, that's up to him and what Saquon wants to do, but the Giants need to get him, because if not, Daniel Jones will not be successful this next season, because I don't even think that he's going to even, maybe he'll make the wild card again, but I don't really see it happening anytime soon, just because I think a lot of the NFC is stepping up, and they're not going to win the division. They're not going to beat the Cowboys or the Eagles going into this year. They will do better than the Commanders. I think the Commanders are not going to be that well this year, but the Giants are going to finish third in the NFC East. There's no way they're going to finish top, not without Saquon Barkley at least. Alrighty, so final topic for today. I told you guys we'd be talking about the NFC South. So who do I have winning the NFC South? So first off, discussing the NFC South, out of the whole NFC conference, they're probably the biggest set of question marks that I've seen, looking at all the divisions. They're probably the one with the biggest question mark, because all the teams, it's a very dependency thing when I look at all of them. It's going to depend if Derek Carr is going to be good, or he's going to have the year he had last year. We don't know what Desmond Ridder is going to look like. This is his first step, this is his first season taking over the reins. Bryce Young is a rookie quarterback. Is he going to be sensational, or is he going to need a little bit more time to develop? Baker Mayfield, now he's on a new team. But looking at everything, it's going to come down to 2 teams. It's going to come down to the Saints, and it's going to come down to the Buccaneers. And I got the Buccaneers winning it. Here's why. Before you get mad at me on this. Here's why I think the Buccaneers will take it. Because I think overall, the Buccaneers on paper have a better team than probably all of the NFC South. Because even though everyone likes to hate on Baker Mayfield, which is my guy, that's my guy. However, let's look at beyond Baker Mayfield. Let's take him out of the equation for a second. They still have Chris Godwin. He's still there. Mike Evans, an all-pro who averages 1,000 yards receiving every season. Every season he's played, he's gotten about 1,000. They have a pretty good offensive line because they're getting back their center and the injured players that they got. They got rid of Leonard Fournette, so they're probably going to run with a different running back. They have a good defense. They have Todd Bowles does it. He did at least a little bit of a decent job with the defense. So comparing them to the rest of the NFC South, wide receivers between them and the Saints, pretty self-explanatory. I'm going to take the Buccaneers wide receiving core because Michael Thomas, we don't know if he's going to be ever healthy ever again. Chris Olave, I love Chris Olave. I think he's going to be a pretty good wide receiver in the league. And that's about it. But between those two and Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, they win. The Atlanta Falcons, just Drake London, really. And Kyle Pitts, if you want to throw Kyle Pitts in, I know fantasy football owners are waiting for the day for Kyle Pitts to be great so they can get some points and probably win a title belt for their fantasy league. But we don't know. But between them and the Buccaneers, I still take the Buccaneers wide receiver core. Then let's go to Carolina. All they really have is Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen or Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. I'm going to take them. Let's look at their offensive lines. I think Tampa Bay by far has a better offensive line than probably most of the division. So they have an edge. Defensively, I think that's the closest thing is them and the Panthers, because the Panthers had a pretty good defense last season. That was one of the better things about that team last year. Aside of them firing Matt Rule, is the defense. I think the defense did play pretty solid, especially when Baker was struggling and Sam Darnold was kind of struggling a little bit towards the end. PJ Walker had to come in. That defense kind of kept them, afloat. But between them and the Buccaneers, when the Buccaneers had to go play defense, I think that one's pretty close, but I think a little bit of the Buccaneers have the edge on that. So really, and here's where I say the biggest question marks are going to come in from the rest of for that whole division. Let's start with the Saints. Like I said, we don't know if Derek Carr is going to be, last year Derek Carr, where he was second in interceptions and he just didn't play well, even though he had the best wide receiver in the NFL with him and Darren Waller, and he had a top running back in Josh Jacobs, and they still weren't able to get it to go. Pair that with a bad defense. He didn't play good. Overall, he did not play good. Then let's look at Desmond Ridder and that offense over there in Atlanta. We don't know what he's going to look like. We just don't. It's a big question mark. We're hoping that Bijan Robinson's going to help out a lot and help elevate that offense with Cordell Patterson. But we don't know if he's going to be good or not. So that's a big question mark. In theory, he should. Now let's look at Carolina. Bryce Young, I hope he is great. He looks like he's going to be a great quarterback in the NFL. However, they don't have enough weapons around him to make him, be at the top of his game where he needs to be. Aside of Adam Thielen, who has proven to be a number one wide receiver, but, who knows what it's going to look like now, with Frank Variable being there, who knows what's going to happen with Bryce Young, so that's another question mark. And then Baker Mayfield, same thing with the Buccaneers. If he's going to look like 2020 Baker Mayfield, where he had a pretty good year, or, he's going to look like the Panthers, which I don't think so because he's in a similar offense that he ran. Now with them bringing in Canales, bringing him in from Seattle, and, so I believe Todd Bowles, they had to change up the whole offense for Baker Mayfield to come in. He's most likely going to be the starter, but who knows what's going to happen with Baker, especially since he's coming off an injury and, kind of going decently with the LA Rams whenever he went over there. But he was able to do at least okay because he was working with third string wide receivers and, a defense that didn't have Aaron Donald anymore. Now we're going to see what he can do with more talent. He, on paper, has more talent because he didn't have much talent in LA because everyone was hurt. He really didn't have a lot of talent in Carolina, and he had a bad coach in Matt Rule. And then in Cleveland, Odell got hurt, so all he had was really Jarvis Landry and Nick Chubb. But now he has a little bit more offensive weapons with Tampa Bay, a little bit of a similar offense that he ran. So, but like I said, the biggest question mark is going to be him and maybe Todd Bowles and how he's going to run that team. So there's a lot of question marks surrounding the NFC South. And I said it before, I think they're going to be one of the weaker divisions. I don't really see them finishing like 1 and 2. They maybe finish fourth overall in the NFC, and the whole NFC division, and the whole NFC, they're going to finish probably fourth. But I do, on paper, I think the Buccaneers have a better team than everybody there. Like I said, it's going to be between them and the Saints. I think the Saints are going to be the closest ones to beat it, to win, because defensively, also for Atlanta, I really don't see them competing with the Bucks. I think that's another thing that was kind of like a little bit of a downgrade. Not really a downgrade, but I know that was one of the more lesser parts of the Atlanta team was their defense wasn't the best, so I have the Buccaneers, the Saints, and then the Panthers, along with Atlanta probably finishing at the bottom. Maybe something might get switched, but overall I do believe that Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers will win their division and win the NFC South and go to the playoffs. But alrighty, that's going to wrap things up on this episode of the CAV Sports Podcast. Make sure you guys follow me on all of my socials at CAV Sports or CAV Sports Podcast. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, you guys name it, I'm on it. This episode will be live on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Music. But until next time, I'll see you guys in the next episode.